In this lecture, we're going to look at some contour drawings. Artists have used contour and gesture drawing since prehistoric times to capture the essence of forms. Some of the earliest contour drawings can be seen in prehistoric art and in Egyptian art. This outline drawing of a bull from the Lascaux cave paintings in France accurately describes how they walked. And these paintings were done in 15,000 BCE. The portrait of Ramses VI, which dates to 1143 to 1136 BCE, the 20th dynasty of Egypt, also shows a beautiful contour drawing. You can see there's some outlining around the eyes, which uses very thick lines. It's an idealized portrait of the ruler. There are several different types of contour drawings. Blind continuous contour is where you don't look at your paper at all while you're drawing and you draw on one connected line. Modified continuous contour is where you look at your paper about 20% of the time and your subject about 80% of the time, and you also draw in one connected line. Cross contour is where you're going to draw the outline of the forms as well as the inner contour. The cross contour lines usually follow the direction of the form, and they help to show more volume. Implied contour, you can look back and forth freely at your subject and at your paper while you're drawing. You can correct, you can erase as you draw the contours of your objects. This portrait by Dusty Blanchet, which was done in 1953 with ink on paper, is an example of a continuous blind contour portrait, and you can see it's interesting because she's shown not just the face but the entire figure. This sculpture by Alexander Calder is an example of a continuous blind contour sculpture, and it's similar to what you do with the drawings where you have that one continuous line which is connected. This is a beautiful portrait Picasso did of his dog Lump, and you can see he used one continuous line which perfectly describes this little dachshund. This series were called the single line drawings, which he did in the later part of his career. This drawing by Paul Klee is a beautiful example of a continuous blind contour, which is done in color, which makes it very interesting. I wanted to show you a couple of artists, contemporary artists, who have made continuous blind contour drawings into the basis of their entire artwork. You have Ian Sklarski on the left, a portrait where he added in some washes of color after he does the drawing, and this portrait of Sam Cooke by Sophie Kipner on the right. You can see she started out with the drawing and then added in tones and shading. Modified continuous contour. This work by Egan Schiele, which is actually a serifgraph print, Mother and Child, it was done in 1910, is a very good example of a modified continuous contour. Modified and implied contour. Many artists such as Matisse, Leonardo, and Ellsworth Kelly have used modified contour in their drawings. It was a signature of many of Matisse's drawings and paintings, which simplified and captured the gesture and the essence of their subject. And you can see in this work, which is a woman with a still life. She's sitting by the table. We just see beautiful outline of most of the forms, and then you have a little bit of detail added in the painting on the wall with the leaves and in the flowers where you're starting to get a feeling of texture. These two drawings by Ellsworth Kelly of lilies and a rubber plant beautifully exemplify the use of simple contour drawing to create the whole essence and feeling of the subject matter. And in the drawing of the lilies, you have a little bit of a feeling of texture as well in the lines on the leaves and the flowers. Cross contour. This drawing by Matisse is an example of cross contour, where not only the outline is drawn, but also the inner contours, which tend to show more volume of the forms, and it also captures the gesture of the objects. You can see with the pumpkin, we see the inner lines. On the vase, we see the details of the pattern. On the teapot, we see the lines, which either could be painted lines or which show the motion of the form. And all of that adds to the feeling of the gesture. We almost feel like these are still life objects and they're inanimate, but they almost seem to be animated in the beautiful way that he's portrayed them. This work by Leonardo of a horse and rider shows the use of cross-contour lines to define the volume of the forms. This was a study for a Sforzum monument that he worked on, and it was silver point on blue paper, which is really beautiful, the blue background with what looks like ink on top. It was done in 1488, and it's in the Windsor Castle collection. It's also a good example of a gesture drawing. Note that he has drawn a few different lines for each part to capture the gesture. So you can see he's drawn over, as I was mentioning in the implied contour demonstration. When we look at master drawings, you can still see they didn't just put one line down and it was perfect. They're drawing and then they're drawing over. And in this case, usually when we talk about gestural drawing, we're talking about drawings of the figure, so that the gesture of the figure seated on the horse and the gesture of the horse are captured in this beautiful drawing. This is one of hundreds of beautiful drawings which Leonardo completed, and is a great example of an implied contour drawing, which captures the fundamentals of the human form and horse, with some shading and washes added in. Through history, artists have used many variations of contour drawings to capture their subjects, which are beautiful works in their own right. And this concludes the lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.